tubies. I'm spoiling you, I know, I love it. This video, I wanted to go over the differences in infusions, decoctions, and macerations. I know it can be a little confusing when you are kind of going through an herbal book and you're wanting to do a few things and you don't necessarily know or understand what the difference between the three different ones are. So I wanted to go over that with you. Got my handy dandy Book of Shadows. And yeah, so infusions and decoctions, they are pretty much, it's not just a cup of tea. It is a magnificent tonic that you can use, made with a type of liquid that you can use for washing your hair, for drinking as a tonic to get the medicinal properties, to hydrate your body. There's lots of different benefits that doing infusions and decoctions have. They really do. And if you incorporate them in your daily life, you will find that you will be healthier, think more clearly, and boost your immunity system overall, so you don't have to worry about getting sick later on in life. Now, the extraction processes of these two are very quick and efficient. Not only does it hydrate your body, because most of the time they contain water, not always, but they also have probiotic proliferations that really will jumpstart and stimulate your digestive system and the cleansing of your liver and your kidneys and your nerves and everything that you have going on in your body. It would help bring a balance to it all, so therefore your body is balanced overall and it works more properly, balancing your red blood cells and your white blood cells and getting those antibodies going and fighting off anything that comes to you without you even knowing it in the first place. Now, infusions, they can be made with fresh or dried herbs. It doesn't matter. It can be made with hot or cold water. Infusions are also pretty much tinctures. They can be made with alcohol, wine, vinegar, and juice. Any kind of liquid you can use to make an infusion. Now, depending on how you end up administering that infusion, there's different ways of going about that. Now, if you make an infusion, pretty much no matter what type of menstruum you use, now let's just go, so we're not overwhelming you here, we're going to go with water. Hot or cold water, you will pretty much, making an infusion is simply taking an amount of herb, and usually depending, 3 to 5 grams, depending on how big of a batch you want to make. Now, you never want to make huge quantities of an infusion at one time unless you're using alcohol, simply because one's made with water and juice, they have no way of being preserved. So therefore, they only last up to maybe about 48 hours and maybe 3 to 5 days. That's if you keep them refrigerated afterwards. Now, those type of infusions made with water and juice, specifically water, are great to use for hair rinses, to strengthen hair. If you incorporate horsetail or rosemary, it adds a wonderful scent to your hair, gives you really strong roots, and adds that natural shine to your hair without it being oily or dry at the same time. Now, if you're making one with vinegar or glycerin, it's the same process. You pretty much soak the herbs for however long it takes for the herbs to pretty much become softened or dissolve totally, depending on what specific type of herb you use, as well as the texture of it at the time. Roots, barks, and resins take a lot longer because they're much more hardier than petals, leaves, and flowers in general. It definitely takes a little bit less time with those. So that is something to take into consideration. Now, there's 3 different types of ways to make infusions. The first one is a maceration, which I was just describing, and that is pretty much soaking the herb in a particular menstruum to where it does soften and dissolve. Now, you do want to make sure you shake those every day, at least a couple times a day if need be. Make it part of your routine. In the morning, go to your little shelf with all your little things making, infusions making, and shake them up. Shake them up. do it every couple hours. Now, if it's a water one, you pretty much only need to do that for a couple hours, and then you're going to end up refrigerating it afterwards, because like I said, you don't want to let it sit out because it will mold and it will grow stuff that you don't want in there, and you will not be able to consume it later on. Another form is called digestion. It's pretty much maceration, but it is at a continual heat, but it is not bringing it to a boil. So the only way you can pretty much do that is if you do a digestion in a crock pot or slow cooker of sorts. That is great to do for oils if you are making infused oils, whether it be doesn't really necessarily matter what kind of carrier oil you use. Olive oil are usually great digestions for that process, as well as sesame seeds, saffron. There's all kinds of different oils. There's jojoba oil, but those don't necessarily need to be heated because it's not technically an oil. It's more of a very, very thin wax of sort. Yeah. Slow cookers, digestion, it's a great way to do it, and infuse oil, and you can use those oils later on to make ointments and liniments and salves of different sorts. Now the last one is percolation, and I'm sure most of you know what percolation is. Usually there's a particular little device that you have. It's kind of like a coffee maker. The same way you make coffee, it's percolation. It's allowing hot water to be drip through the filter, and therefore at the end of it you've got your coffee, you've got your percolation of a particular herb. Now that's really not a highly used method upon herbalists, just because if you're going to do an infusion or a tea of sorts, it's a lot quicker than percolation, and it's a lot different because you have so many different types of herbs usually going into one mixture that it just doesn't work as well, and it's not as very even. So yeah, but you can do it that way. Now, decoctions are made by actually boiling your herbs, whether they are fresh or dried. Now, preferably if you're doing a decoction, it's going to be dried herbs, simply because fresh herbs are bruised a lot easier and they contain a lot more water, but you can do that. Now, when you are doing a concoction, you want to remember to do, if you are doing something with roots and barks and resins, and make sure the resins that you are doing can be digested. You want to make sure of that first. But you want to boil them a little bit longer, even up to 30 minutes longer, and then add your flowers and your petals and your leaves, whatever light material you want, because it doesn't take long for those to soften up and release their oils and their medicinal properties. And once you boil it too long, it pretty much burns them away and it becomes useless in the first place. So, like I said, you don't want to make these in large quantities. A decoction, an infusion, a maceration, however you end up doing it, whatever method you use. Like I said, it can't be drank as a tea. Certain ones, decoctions, after you boil it for just a few minutes, after your barks, I'm kind of probably confusing the hell out of you right now because I'm jumbling my stuff. When you boil your decoction, if it's roots and barks, it needs to boil a little bit longer so they soften up. After you do your rose petals and your leaves and such in it, if you decide to, you let it boil a little bit longer, and then you want to let it sit. Put a lid on it, allow it to steep for quite a while, get all those juices, everything kind of in it, and take it off of the heat, as it'll continue, because it's in hot water, to soak up all that. Then you simply drain it, filter it, however it is, if you have a strainer of sorts, and it's ready to drink or bottle up and use at a later date. But if it's made with water, of course, you want to keep it refrigerated if it's not immediately used. And like I said, it'll last a little bit. Now, infusions that are made, such as tinctures with alcohol, they can last from 3 to 5 years, which is very grand if you're wanting to build up your collection or your stock. And the ones made with vinegar and glycerin, they usually last about 6 months, maybe to a year, depending on how you store it. If you store it out of direct sunlight, in amber colored bottles, or in a cool dark place, they will last about a year without any problems for you to use. So I really hope this helps. If you guys have any questions or comments, let me know and leave them below and I'll get back to you. You could always visit me at thegreeneyedowl.org and email me there. That is one of my easiest ones as far as herbs goes to respond and reply quickly. And I really appreciate you guys watching. And if you have any further questions, like I said, don't hesitate. And I'm always on my Facebook TipToeChick. Look me up. I'm actively on there every day doing all kinds of different things. So you guys check me out. And yeah, much love and light to you in your herbal practices. And I really hope you guys learn a lot from me and really take time to incorporate things in your life, because it is not a better feeling to be able to heal your family, your friends, and along with yourself and live a long, prosperous life without having to depend on expensive drugs and sorts that may end up hurting you in the long run. So much love and light to you, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye!